Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Anu Joshi and I'm a real estate broker based in Toronto and working throughout the GTA. On today's video, I wanted to speak a little bit about the issue of bidding, right? We're seeing it a lot all over the GTA on several different types of properties. Almost every other listing is going into multiple offers because it's underlisted. Buyers are coming in, taking a look and offering whatever the price it is that they're offering, and majority of properties on the market right now are selling for above asking price. Now, there's a couple of things that I wanted to address because it's a common question with my clients, especially first timers that are kind of getting used to the market, and even people that are selling and buying. It's a very important principle or set of principles to understand and get a handle on what's happening with all of the bidding in today's GTA market. So here we go. Firstly, I want to address the concept of above asking sold prices. If you have a property that the listing agent, the seller, the buyer, the buyer's agent, everybody in that neighborhood, okay, knows that that house is worth $900,000. Everybody knows it. Nothing on that street sells for under $900,000. That's just what the area price is. Now, if the seller and the listing agent make a decision that they're going to list that property that's worth in and around $900,000, if they decide that they're going to list that property for $699 or $700K, the new price of that property or the new market value of that property was never, is not $699. The market value of that property, the current appraisal value, the current value of that home is going to be $900,000. Everybody knows it, right? Both on the selling side and on the buying side. Everybody knows that that property is worth $900,000 in and around that ballpark. So listing it under market value, so clearly under market value. If you have a listing going up for $699 in an area that you know for a fact sells for $900,000, the only purpose is that sellers and listing agents, so that they can get more buyers and more potential buyers to get their eyeballs on that listing. And there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Some can say that it's misleading. Yeah, it is misleading. Basically, the buyers that have searches set up for their top end budget of $700,000 get this $699 listing that just slips into their inbox. So they get their eyeballs on it and they're like, hey, we want to see this one. It's the buyer's job in the market that we're in today. It's the buyer's job and the buyer's agent's job to educate them and say, hey, listen, I know this specific listing is listed for $699, and the seller and the listing agent have a right to do that. They can list it for $699. They can list it for $1. Right? But the buyer's agent and the buyer have to have that conversation that, hey, this area generally sells for $900,000. And so this property is probably going to sell for around $900,000, irrespective of the list price. Now, let's say that property does sell. And whether there's one offer on the table or 20 offers on the table, doesn't matter. It will sell for, let's say, $900,000, right? Then you have the listing agent and the media pick it up and say that XYZ property in this city sold for $200,000 above asking. Now, if we dissect that a little bit, is that a valuable headline for anybody that's reading the news other than being clickbait? Is that actually valuable? That's not valuable at all, in my opinion, because the way that they're saying it, yeah, it's 200 above ask. If you listed that property for $1, would you say that it's sold for $900,000 above asking? It's basically an attention-grabbing headline, right? But the properties in that area were always going to sell for $900. This house was always going to sell for $900. The fact that they listed it at $699 or $599 or $799 or $1 doesn't matter. So this above asking principle that we're seeing in the media, right? The media loves to report it. There was a news article the other day, 700,000 above ask. Yeah, how much of that was actual true, lift in the price caused by competing offers or like in the frenzy of multiple offers? How much of that was due to that portion of it, right? In this example, the one that we're using, if I have something listed for $699, the value for it, everybody at the table, all of the buyers that are offering on it, let's say there's 20 of them, right? All 20 buyers agents, the listing agent, the seller, everybody knows the house is worth $900,000. Now, let's say we get into a situation where we have the 20 buyers, right? 20 people offering on that property, and things get really heated and competitive. And for a $900,000 property, let's say one of the buyers says, okay, I'm going to go to $910,000, right? So now if they get it for $910,000, they have paid $210,000 above ask. But how much above market value have they paid? Only 10K, right? But is the media, is the news, is that listing agent ever going to advertise or report, hey, I sold a house for 10K above market value? No. That 10K is the only true lift that has happened, right? The $200,000 between $699 and $900, that $200,000, that was always going to happen, right? I can list that house for $1 and you're still going to buy it for $900,000 because that's what properties sell for in that neighborhood. So we have to kind of dissect it. And every time we read a headline, and this is to consumers as much as it is to my fellow realtors, when we read headlines like this, or our clients read headlines like this, it's actually our job to educate our clients on what's happening, right? That house did not, it sold 200 above ask, yes, but let's say it only sold 10K above true market value, right? And let's say the people that offer 900,000 got it for 900,000. Then realistically, there's no headline there because it sold for exactly what it was worth. It sold for exactly what the market value of that property is. And we have to start understanding that as listing agents and sellers, these individuals have the right to market their properties in any way they want. I can list $1 million mansion for $1 on the MLS. I can do that today. If a seller calls me up and says, hey, Anu, list our $1 million mansion for $1 and hold offers next Friday, I can do that. I will absolutely do that. But when we sell it for $1 million, have I sold it for $1 million above asking? Technically, yes, and it's a salacious headline, but the seller knew, I knew, the buyers know, the buyer's agent knows that $1 million house is always going to sell for $1 million, right? For the most part. And so make sure that when you're reading these headlines that you're questioning it, because initially upon hearing it, you're like, oh my God, 200 above ask, someone's going crazy. Yeah, well, if they had offered $699, they were never going to get it because that house is not worth $699, right? So you have to understand that it's not always about what the article says or what the headline is. You have to understand the principle behind it. So my point is, for my buyers especially, don't get scared, right? These headlines are made, it's clickbait, it's literal clickbait, so that you click on it, you open that link, you read that article, you share it with 20 friends. Hey, it's going crazy. The Toronto real estate market is crazy. Da, 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 da. It's not that crazy, right? Prices are high. I get it. Prices are high. I'm not denying that. But this bidding war and this fear around bidding and, hey, we don't want to get involved in bidding and this and that, that's fine. It's a personal choice. But understand that that house that sold for $900,000 was always going to sell for $900,000. Now, if you were in a position where instead of $900K, you were offering $910 or $920 or $930, that additional 10 or 20 or 30,000 is the lift that you're adding. So I can say then that, yeah, that property for $930, it sold for $30K above market value, right? And that's not that scary because sometimes it happens. If there's 20 offers on the table, hey, for certain families, maybe it makes sense to go 20K above market value. Maybe it makes sense, right? And that's not as scary, but nor is it as salacious. So you won't hear news reported that way. You won't hear it that, hey, this family decided to go 20K above market value to procure the house of their dreams, and everything makes sense for them finance-wise, home-wise, everything makes sense. But 20K above market value is not a salacious headline. However, 220,000 above ask, everyone's clicking it, everyone's sharing that article. So please just be aware. The other issue that I wanted to talk about, which has also garnered some interest and attention in the news is the fact that in Ontario, we have a blind bidding system. Okay. Now, for the most part in real estate, it is called a blind bid, as in it's not an open auction, right? So there has been some criticism that buyers are at a disadvantage because they're going into these bidding situations blind. Okay. Let's go back to our $900,000 home example. Okay. As a buyer going to that listing with your buyer's agent, you have to understand that irrespective of what it's listed for, which in our case was $699, irrespective of that, you and your agent know that that area, that street, that type of house is going to sell for $900K. So you have an idea of what you are going to be expected to offer on it in the hopes of procuring it, right? And that number, anyone can arrive at that. Any real estate agent that you're working with has access to comparable sales that have happened in the area. Most realtors have the knowledge to be able to complete a CMA, or comparative market analysis, and they can share that amount with you, right? You don't need to go into a $699 listing that's holding a bid date. You don't have to go into a blind. You know going into it that that's going to sell for in and around the 900,000. Now, the claim, based on what I've heard so far, the claim is that because it's a blind bidding system, buyers are forced to offer more than a property is worth, or more than they're comfortable doing. So the fact that a buyer's agent is able to look at comparables for any given area, they're able to look at the comparables and advise their buyers going in what the value of the property might be around, negates the fact that the buyer is pressured into increasing their price, right? Whenever my clients and I go into a multiple offer scenario or a bidding scenario, we do a CMA upfront without any external factors. So we don't take into account, how many offers are on the table, how many people are competing with us. We don't talk about any of that. First and foremost, we just evaluate the property as is. What is the market value of this home, right? And in that case, I'm ignoring that $699 listing figure because it doesn't mean anything. And I'm working with my clients to justify and arrive at that $900,000 figure. Once we have that number, it's up to my client how high they want to go or how low they want to go, right? It's going to be up to my client if they want to bid above market value. And that has to be in correlation to their pocket, to their budget, to their comfort, based on their agent's expertise, right? So if my buyers and I have established that this home is worth $900,000, any movement that they make above that to $910 or $920 or whatever it might be, that is going to be, they're going to be doing that knowingly, right? And so in that case, they're only bidding $10K or $20K above market value. They're not bidding $210K above asking, right? We're sure of that first 200. We're sure of that because we know the property is worth 900,000. And so in a bidding scenario, I think it's really, really important to have an agent, especially if you're a buyer. If you're getting into a bidding situation and you feel that you're at a disadvantage, one of the reasons that may be is because maybe your realtor is not having an open and honest conversation with you. So I would encourage you to ask your realtor to complete a comparative market analysis before you go into any bidding situation. Okay, so you know what that figure is, right? Irrespective of the $699 asking price, you should know that that property is worth $900,000 or whatever. And so you can budget accordingly. You can decide, do we want to go up to $910 or do we want to just do $900 and walk away? Right? You should have the power in your hands to make those decisions. And when you're in a bidding scenario, there's no reason for you to go above above what you think is the market value. You don't have to surpass that if you don't want to. At any point, you can just walk away. There may be somebody else that's crazier than you and wants that house for $950, and you can't do anything about that. I mean, we're in an open market, right? But you just kind of have to play it by ear and just know where your finances sit and where your finances are. So the claim that having a closed bid system actually encourages buyers to go above, asking or offer too much money, I completely don't agree with that, and I've laid out why. The power to control the offer of a single buyer is always in that buyer's hand, right? Nobody, like the seller can even give you a counter offer, right? You offer 900,000, they counter offer you 950, and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. And you can walk away, right? At any point, if you don't like the number, you can walk away. You get to choose how much you want to offer, how much you want to counter, whether or not you want to move forward. You have that control in your hands. And so, if somebody else is looking to outbid you, hey, that's the free market, right? But you're allowed to walk away at any time. The reason that we have a blind bidding system, well, I'm not sure if the reason it originated, but why it's like that is because in REBA, the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act, as well as TRESA, our new Real Estate Act, the Trust and Real Estate Services Act, both of them stipulate that as a listing agent, you cannot disclose the content of the offers that you've received to any other party. So let's play this out, okay? I'm a listing agent. I have my seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, whose home I've listed on the market. Now, it doesn't matter if it's like a bidding scenario or not, but let's just stick with our example, right? We've listed the home for $699. We, Mr. and Mrs. Seller and myself, are expecting somewhere around the $900,000 mark. And let's say we get 3 offers on the table, right? 2 are both at 900,000 and the other one is at 920,000. Okay. I can present all 3 of those offers at the same time, obviously. I can present that to my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. But Mr. and Mrs. Seller and myself as a listing agent, I cannot disclose to the 3 parties that submitted offers, I cannot disclose to them what the other 2 offers are. I can't tell them what the competing offer is. I can't tell them how much they offered. I can't tell them about the conditions. I can't tell them about what the expiry of the offer is. I can't tell them about the deposit. All of these structural components, even conditions, right? I can't tell them this person has this condition and this person doesn't, right? I can't disclose any competitive information about any offer. The only thing that I can tell them, buyer A, buyer B, and buyer C, I can tell them that, hey, listen, in total, we have 3 offers on the property right now. That is the only thing I can disclose. The other thing I have to disclose as a listing agent is if any of those offers are mine. Because if they're mine, then I'm representing that buyer and I'm representing my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So beyond those few disclosures, I can't disclose any competitive information, right? Because if I told, because A and B offered 900,000 and C offered 920,000. If I told A and B that, hey, listen, offer C is offering me 920, can you beat it? Right? Because that would be kind of like an open bidding situation, right? If I told them that, then they'd be like, yeah, we can do 920. Just to be safe, let's do 925. Okay, so B ups their offer to 925. Now we're at C has 920. I told A and B, I gave them a little, hint. So B upped their offer to 925. Now what do? Now do I tell A, who's at 900, and C, who's at 920, do I tell them, hey, B just came in, revised their offer, and now they're at 925. If I tell them that, maybe A is like, hey, we could go up to 930. Let's do 930. So now I have A, who upped their offer to 930. I have B, who has 925, and C, who has 920 on the table, right? And with this open system, who's going to get the property? Offer A, because they now are offering 930. But in the previous closed system, who was going to get it? Offer C, because they were offering 920, and the other ones were not even close. So at the end of the day, somebody's going to get the property. One person is going to get it, not all 3, right? How do we decide whether an open bidding system or a closed bidding system is better? Whose job is it to decide that, right? How we have it now, it's to protect the privacy of the buyers. Like if the buyers don't want it known that they offered XYZ on the property, that's their right. Now, when people are asking for an open system, thinking that that's going to actually decrease prices and by increasing transparency. That's not necessarily the case, right? Because as I just showed, if I tell them the components of the offer, even though I'm not supposed to, right? Hypothetically, if we were in an open system, if I told them the components of the other competing offers, we have now people that are trying to beat that offer and go up and up and up, right? If you've seen an online auction, and there are people in Ontario, there are sellers and realtors that do facilitate open auctions, they're just not very popular. But if you do see that, if it plays out in the same way our example did, what's to say that an open auction where you can see the little number ticking up won't drive the price up even more and even faster, right? We don't know that. There's an example in Australia, for example, they have an open bidding system a lot more frequently than the closed bidding. So they do a lot of open bidding on homes. And the complaint there, guess what it is? That open bidding systems in the real estate housing market is what's causing all of these inflated housing prices. So they want to close their bidding system. And here we are in Ontario wanting to open our closed bidding system. So I think it's really tough to kind of address this issue. But the way it is now, I mean, I understand that people may want an open system, and that's fine. There are certain homes that come on auction and that you can purchase that way if you're more comfortable. But based on the information that I've presented, I don't think that a closed bidding system is at the disadvantage of the buyer, right? End of the day, my advice to any buyer out there, whether you're a first-time buyer or an upgrade buyer or a downsized buyer, any type of buyer, right? Know what your numbers are going into that transaction. If you don't want to pay a penny above $900,000, don't do it, right? On the other hand, if you're prepared to pay up to $920,000, do it. If that's justifiable to your finances, if that's justifiable to your family, do it. Pay $950, $920, and get that home, right? At the end of the day, it's a very, very personal decision. And one of those three parties in both cases, whether it's closed or open, in one of those, in both of those scenarios, one person is going to get it, right? In the first scenario, one party is going to be happy and two are going to be upset. In an open scenario that we demonstrated, again, another party, single party, is going to be happy and the other two are going to be upset. So you can't please everyone, but the law as it is right now, us as realtors, as listing agents, we're not able to disclose offers and the content of offers, and that is to protect all the buyers and the sellers in the transaction, to protect all of their competitive interests. So my advice to you, if you were a buyer, have this conversation with your agent. As a buyer's agent, they should be advising you on how to go about navigating multiple offer situations, because they're here. They're not going anywhere. Sellers love nowadays, listing it under market value and seeing how high we can get. And that's their right to do that. And if you were a buyer in the GTA and you want to procure a property, very likely, more likely than not, you're going to have to get into a bidding situation. So just make sure that you're prepared. I've helped clients win in multiple offer scenarios, and this is without overbidding, without paying above market value. Yes, it's above asking. Everything is above asking now, right? If I list, a bottle of water for $1 for $0 and I buy it for $2, it's above asking. But anyways, everything nowadays is above asking, but it does not have to be, and it's not synonymous with being above market value. So you can still get into a bidding situation. You can still have a blind bid. If you go in an educated manner with your agent, having your back, then absolutely you can come out on top. You can win. You can, purchase and have peace of mind, financial clarity, and all that jazz. So if you do have any questions about bidding, about multiple offers, about the offer or home buying process in Ontario, I will put all of my details in the description box below. You can contact me if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to help you navigate this industry. I've been in real estate full-time for 7 years now, over 7 years, and I've seen a ton of different markets. So this is not new to me. I know how to navigate it. And at the very least, what I can do is, help answer your questions and make you more comfortable with the home buying process, because what's happening now is here to stay. And you shouldn't, be deterred from buying your home because you don't know how to navigate. So learn how to navigate it, get your feet into the real estate market here in the GTA, and good luck. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button if you thought that this was helpful, and I'll see you guys on my next video.